Here, so let's call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for being here. This is a meeting of the Audit Committee of the City of Bel Air Beach. The date is April 16, 2024, and it is 5 o'clock. So let's do a roll call. I want to go around the room and state, my name is Kim Shaw Elliott.
Tom Elliott.
Rob Risberg.
John Hanzik.
Tammy Lavenda.
Mark Oldman.
Rod Saganic.
Kyle Riefler, City Manager.
So all are present. So the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the last agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the?
So moved.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. The approval of today's agenda. Thank you.
Yep.
So do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you very much. Is
Okay, I'm
anybody
gonna
taking
need
notes?
some
or-
names here.
Yeah, John is. So Tom, Elliott, and then Rob.
Thanks. Okay, next item on the agenda, item number 2, is approval of the July 12 Audit Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And of course, I forgot to call for a vote on number 1, so is everyone in favor of approval of the agenda?
Sorry.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, is there just one meeting minutes to approve?
Yes.
All right, so here's the main item for today is to review and accept a draft annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023. So, do I have a motion to approve that annual report?
There were some preliminary documents that I had
So,
some questions.
yeah. Sometimes in the past, we would turn it over to Kyle if there's any comments for Kyle that he has from Heather. But do we need a motion to open it up, or?
Take a motion.
Generally, we have a motion and
And then discussion.
And then discussion after
Okay.
the motion.
So you,
And I should have said that first.
The only, under Robert's rules, you would do a motion to accept. If you're gonna open it up for discussion to clarify before you go to the motion, that would be appropriate. But
Yeah.
y'all do what you wanna do.
Yeah, it's not how the city council does it.
So for the item, it'd just be a motion to review or to go over?
I would
so we need a
Make a
motion to
motion
review
to
and then a motion to
review.
accept?
Yeah.
accept, and then we can go into discussion if approved, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, so Tom, did you motion to review?
Well, there were preliminary documents. They're not a part of the report. They're a part of the preliminary pages, unless you consider that part of the report.
That's part of it.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is just get a motion, so,
I move to accept,
or review,
or review, sorry.
Yeah.
Move to review, thank you.
and I'll second it.
Thank you.
And a vote?
All in favor?
Of reviewing and,
You got a motion on the table, you got to vote on it now.
To
oh,
review.
just, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Tom, right?
Yes.
All right, the specific document is, the draft letter to City Council, which is Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I realize, specifically on page 2, and it's the third paragraph, I realize this FY 2023, the information is correct about how we choose members, but should that be specified, just to clarify, so people who read a document signed April 2024 aren't going to be confused about the composition of city council? In other words, that it was, for purposes of FY 2023, the council was blah, blah, blah. I mean, as a clarification, I don't want to belabor the point. If you think it's unnecessary, I'll withdraw that request. But I had something else that's more direct.
I'll check on that. I think it's based on what it was at the time.
Oh, sure it is, yeah. But it's dated,
Like the
the letter's dated April 24.
There is a signature block that notes who the council members are at one point during the
All right, well, then
document.
that
so-
takes care of it. Okay. Then let me just move on to something more direct, something that I had some experience with in my career, so I should clarify. On the next one, the professional services agreement, you have the preamble, and then you have the sections. Section 28, which is page 6.
We're on the next item. That's the contract.
Oh, you want to do this one by one?
That's gonna be next, right? Isn't that?
Well, I don't know necessarily if I got it out of order, but you go ahead. You go through each document, and then when we get to this, I'll talk.
I think you're looking at the contract for the RFP.
Yeah.
This is professional services agreement, right?
Yes, so we'll get to that in the next item.
That's item 4.
Thank you, sorry.
Do you have a copy of the audit? Or you just have it on
I
there?
just got it on here.
Do
Page,
you want this? Do you want to see the copy?
did you print it? Oh, thanks. Again, normally Patty used to send those to us, but not that it needs to be, but I just thought we'd have a reference here, so that's why I didn't print it.
Oh. I can print one.
That's all right. Take it together.
Yeah, I'm trying to get used to this iPad.
So the only thing is on page 61, that 23 column needs to be widened because it's just got, you see the first revenues?
Yep, I saw that one.
Yeah, I got a couple like that too.
And then page 74, there was a typo. It was, I was pleased I didn't have to catch any numbers.
And we didn't have to repeat that one
Yeah,
from the last few years. Deficiencies.
yeah. So the second, on page 74 of the document, second column from the right, says total primary government. Should probably be government.
Okay,
Government, that's kind of,
I'll check.
I like that.
Thanks, Danny.
Government.
Anybody else have any comments? I have a few. On the manager's report, Romanet 1, the first page, it mentions GAAP accounting, and you accountants here can help me out with that, but should it also address government auditing standards?
GAAP is generally accepted accounting
Right?
principles.
And it does not mention government auditing standards. The report itself mentions both. This letter
Yeah.
says it's only in accordance with GAAP, so it kind of skips the government.
Yeah, that's a
Standard.
great question. You can just ask them if they need to add.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay. And then, just a point of interest, on Romanet 2, at the very end of the page, it says the region, which includes Bel Air Beach and the unincorporated area within Pinellas, has a population of 1 million. Is that correct? With 3 surrounding counties? Is that correct? 1 million people?
check it. I think so.
Pinellas
Okay.
County's a million, Hillsborough County's a little over a million.
Okay.
But when you throw Sarasota and everybody in, it's 3.5 Polk
Yeah,
County,
seems
Pasco.
low. Okay. If we're in the report itself, page 2 also mentions it says there with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. So there it's mentioned both places, which is good. Then excuse me. Some of my questions I've resolved in the meantime, so forgive me while I look at this. I should have put tabs on this and I didn't. That may be all I have on the report itself. Does anybody else have any comment?
I just, Kyle, this was your first full year as city manager?
Yes.
I just wanted, on page 23, just congratulate you. I mean, every department had a positive variance to budget, so well done, great job.
Yeah.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, I'd move to accept.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the draft report. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Now we move on to agenda item number 4, which is the RFP, request for proposals for a certified public accountant to perform the audit next year and to establish the factors to use in that evaluation process. So do I have a motion?
I would like to comment on it, so I would move to review it. Someone wants to second, I can tell you the 2 points I
I'll
have.
second the motion to review.
We have a motion and a second to review the RFP and the factors in consideration of that RFP. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
If I may, on page 5 of the request for proposal, it's just a silly thing, but it's a simple typo. I think you meant on this, let's see, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th paragraph, second line, it should be of a square mile, add square.
Oh, yeah.
Eighth of a square mile.
Thank you.
I
I had that noted too. But I couldn't figure out, okay, we're talking about length, do we need width too? Much better is square mile.
All right, and if I may, there's a second matter that I saw, but this is purely a technical one. It's a citation, and it's page 6, section 28. This is the criteria, professional services agreement draft. And on page 6, section 28, immigration compliance. I've given to Kyle the way that we normally cite it. That was my career, included immigration, and the citations are a little bit off. So I gave him the corrected one. It should read immigration on the second line, Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, 8 USC, and then it's section 1324 small a et sec. And it's just auditing away the Congress number of the statutes. There is a 324 that has a whole list of subsections, and now they created a new 324A, which includes employer sanctions and the like. And so the first subparagraph is 324A, paragraph A. It's very confusing, but that's the way it is. I gave them the exact wording that I think would be
Okay.
accurate.
Appreciate your background.
Thank you.
See, there's a reason I was on this committee. I finally figured it out. And the fifth, sixth line starts violation, section 274E of the Federal Immigration and Employment Act. It's more correctly stated, section 324, I'm sorry, section 274, did I misread it? Section 274, cap A, and then paren E, close paren, of the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act would be the correct way that at least those in the field
yeah.
would say it, so. I don't know, I guess, but I'm not gonna blame this on Randy, but someone drafted it.
Yes, Rob Escherfelder, Randy's colleague.
Okay.
I'll give this back to him.
All right, well, I gave you the actual statute that was passed, so you can see how they numbered it, the second page of
Yep.
that, so.
I'll give him
clarify
this
it.
and adjust it.
That's it.
Any other comments?
I think just open it up to Kyle to have
Yeah.
some questions or just to, you
So-
want to talk about
Yeah.
why and the timing and maybe even some of the things that Heather shared as far as what's going on in the marketplace with bids.
Yeah.
Maybe before that, then I do have a few just technical comments
Yeah,
here.
sure.
One would be on page 4, just a formatting glitch.
They are.
Yeah, on the RFP. On page 5, in the same paragraph that you raised, which is right above scope of work, it says fire services are through Pinellas County. Aren't they through Suncoast?
Mhm.
Okay, so that would be a correction
Yep.
there.
Okay.
On page 6 of 14, and you accountants might be able to help with this, but it says that the proposal shall, the first bullet point on the bottom, the proposer shall not substitute the individuals identified in the as the engagement partners without notifying the city manager. One is, do we want to broaden that because not all organizations would have partners, but are they identified as engagement managers, or what's the common term that would be used
Partner.
there? It is partner,
In
even
accounting
if,
firms.
even if it's not a partner,
Yeah, even in the
a
big
shareholder.
big four.
Or, okay, all right, and then. And it shouldn't, if they have to notify the city manager, do we want to have some sort of amount of time, a prior notice? You can't substitute anybody without 2 weeks prior notice, or what would be reasonable there, or what's customary?
Do we have that in the contract too? It might be covered. Let's see if I can-
Good point. Anybody have any thoughts there? Because I don't know what would be typical, but it seems like,
Section 11, successors and assigns. It's on page 4.
yeah. Well, that's who's, so like if they sell the firm, the new firm would be also bound by this contract. But within the firm, let's say,
Someone retires.
yeah, somebody retires, they say, okay, now Joe's going to do it now instead of Mary. Do we need any kind of prior notice? What if somebody doesn't like Mary, or should we have any kind of say in that?
I don't know, 30, 60 days notice, I think is reasonable. Would-
I do too. I would suggest then that be changed without
we're not gonna control what a firm does, or if somebody wants to retire.
No,
or-
they still have to perform to the standards
Right.
of
Right.
the
But we
original
will,
contract.
but they should notify us within 30
Yeah.
days, or 60 days of retirement, or change of partner.
What if,
Or even reasonable, without reasonable prior notice to the city manager.
We can put the day amount, that way it's not in question.
All right,
I would concur because you could have different definitions of what would be considered reasonable.
yeah, that's always
So
a,
if you lock it down like,
Attorneys love that word.
Yeah, see, I was thinking as the banker, I like the word reasonable when it's in my favor, but now I don't like the word reasonable. So,
but we do need time to consider if anyone on the committee or somebody on the council has some type of relationship that needs to be
Good
addressed
good point.
yeah,
with the new person that's coming in.
Some, perhaps 30 days prior notice to the city manager.
You want to do 30?
In the second bullet point, the firm selected shall either submit progress reports or hold periodic meetings. I would suggest including not less frequently than quarterly. And do you generally have quarterly meetings with your auditors?
Kyle, what do you think about that? Isn't that, almost take that out? That's a little restrictive. How often does Heather talk to him?
See, that's why she put it in, I think we need more progress meetings.
Okay.
I don't, what does it say in here? We had
It says periodic.
periodic.
I would suggest periodic, not less frequently than quarterly, and upon reasonable request of the city manager.
Okay, we'll put quarterly. Yeah, we just wanted more updates.
Yeah,
from what
normally,
we're
isn't
getting
it
now.
like, they do the report, then you hear from them next year, when it's time to start the next
That's
report?
just terrible.
Yeah, it's, and we don't really know where they're at in the whole process before they're, we're asking for a
So
draft.
there's
So
no
we'd like to
progress
know.
reports, or there's no
Currently,
well, that's
no.
not good.
And
Yeah.
as far as when the draft was delivered, that's been
Yeah, but I mean,
longer than we.
everything's going
Yeah, 'cause-
well with the audit, we have no questions, we're
But I saw the
30%
RFP,
done.
the draft is due by the second week of February.
Yeah, we really pushed
They've
that
not
up.
made that, as long
Never.
as we've been doing this.
Right, but we should really request periodic status reports should be delivered to the audit committee or to the city council. I mean,
Or at least to the
I
finance
don't know
office.
of anybody who does work for anybody, and the scope is over a year's time, and they don't give you some information about where they're at, how it's going, and,
So that would be my suggestion, to add not less frequently than quarterly and upon reasonable request of the city manager.
Okay.
So let's say you just had a quarterly meeting. She said that I'll get this to you next week. Here's, and the draft comes in and it's just not at all what you expected. You would have the right then to call another meeting.
Right.
I still have a question
Quarterly.
related to this. Typically, how long does it take for an auditing firm to conduct an audit of this scope? I think that would drive the frequency of periodic reports required. So that's what I'm trying to find out.
So my experience is, February is 135 days after our fiscal year end.
Okay?
So the shorter the window, the more expensive the audit. So if you require it within 90 days, then the fee goes up. But if you require it between 120 and 150, the fee goes down. So I think where we are kind of drives.
So we're in that 135, 150 window?
That's if February 15th, right? That's 90, 120, and 15, yeah. So,
Okay.
Do they charge more if you ask for quarterly and then if you want another one and based on the results? I mean, do they put that into their
they may.
pricing?
Yeah.
They may. I mean, if we want to ask them, well, they can put in their pricing, here's the fee for the audit, and then here's the fee for the quarterly meetings, because they do
Yeah.
historically,
Because it sounds like they weren't in there before, but you're specifically wanting to put them in there now, like with the time frame. So I didn't know if that would adjust what they charge.
It might.
Do we know how the other
But
cities?
Any professional services like that would be expected to give you at least 2 or 3 times within the audit period an update. I wouldn't expect to be charged for that.
It
We're
just
not
sounds like they
looking at-
haven't been, that's why I asked.
Yeah,
wasn't
no, I
sure.
agree with you. I think we should assume that there is not going to be a cost to give us an update saying we're at 1/3 complete. Or
Right.
we're blocked because we're waiting on information from the city or something of that nature.
Exactly.
And other than that, no, I mean, I've never been given that liberty to charge for an update on a project.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid to do.
If you put the requirement for these updates in the
Hard.
what-
And you could do that.
then they would have to factor that into their overall bid.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just want something more formal, because I think what's happened with Salt Marsh over the years is every year a new person's assigned and they all have different styles and
Right.
they're informally contacting Heather, but it's not, I'd rather.
So why don't we
the
change that
official meeting-
language to say periodic updates quarterly or as requested by the city manager? Progress updates.
Yeah, the way it's written now is submit progress reports or hold periodic meetings. And what I'm suggesting is add not less frequently than quarterly and upon reasonable request of the city manager. So it's progress reports or hold periodic meetings.
I can agree to that.
That's good.
Yeah.
The bill's paid at the end, or they require periodic payments?
Periodic payments.
Well, there you go, that's your leverage.
Exactly.
Periodic payments through
No
the year
meeting, no
or once they start the work?
Once they start the work, yeah, they invoice it.
Well, and there's a difference if they have to provide documentation to you with numbers and like, hey, it's going good. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a difference, you know, so.
There's also a difference if they call a meeting with myself versus just calling up Heather. I prefer that, you know, they can communicate with Heather, but I prefer like a formal meeting
Yeah.
periodically
Yeah.
with
Yes.
status.
I agree, and it should be at your discretion, not theirs, unless they have an issue. And then they'll take it up with Heather first, and they'll end up with you. But you should be
Okay.
able to feel comfortable asking them for periodic updates.
Good.
Build that in.
I'll tell you what, I'm learning a lot just from this little bit of conversation. This organization, VSO, I'm in, leading, head of, I'm still waiting for the fiscal year 20 and 21 audits. They haven't even started at 23.
Oh, my heavens.
And
Wow.
I'm ready to put the finance officer in a guillotine.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question would be what's,
What's going on?
Yeah.
So, it's been a fun year.
yeah, where there's smoke, there's fire, you know?
Can I ask, I'm sorry, I know I'm new, but I'm just,
Yeah.
so on the, like, I know Salt Marsh is no longer, we're not working with them anymore, right? Or
No, well, they're
They
wrapping
could.
up the audit and we're
They
gonna,
could. Okay.
we're gonna request them to bid.
Okay, so why are they changing people every year? Because it just seems to me that like, if they get to know what's going on. and
So has the
you
partner
find someone you
changed
wanna
or just
work with-
the accounting?
Who's the signs changed this year? It's Amanda, who's in Texas, so she's
But,
working remotely.
but is she the partner or is she just the person doing the work?
Person doing the
Yeah,
work.
and that's not unusual.
That's
at
not
all.
unusual.
It isn't,
I can
so
tell
you
that.
can't request to have the same person, so you have some continuity.
It's, so a little color on the accounting world. It's been totally crazy since COVID. And so you got firms all over the country recruiting individuals all over the country. And so it's highly likely that you work for a firm out of Seattle and you live in Florida. So it's just, it is probably one of the biggest shortages of jobs is an accountant. And so
Yeah.
it doesn't shock me that the number cruncher changes every year, but the partner doesn't change.
Okay,
So there's still the same partner involved traditionally, unless now we're going to request for a 30 days notice of a change in partner. So the partner's always involved, but they don't normally show up till the end, and they deliver the
But
results
the
in the city council.
partner, we would hold the partner responsible if the person that.
And he'll drive down
do
from
the audit
Tallahassee.
doesn't
Yeah.
perform.
Yeah.
So we have a throat to choke, so to speak, but
Got it.
the
I like
people that do the work.
throat to choke.
I mean, it changes, like, it's almost the same thing in the medical profession. You have a different nurse or a different receptionist or something every time you go in. It's just the world today.
Okay.
So you have to be a little flexible, but you have to know who to hold accountable. For sure.
You want to share what's gone on with the other cities?
So with the RFP, which is Reddington Shores, when they went out, I believe their low bid came in at, should we say 30,000 roughly. And Salt Marsh, who bid on that, bid upwards of 60.
They were the incumbent.
Yeah, so they're, but I mean, that high.
They didn't want the work.
They didn't want it.
No, they're just saying thank you, but no thank you.
And our fee is what, 24,
Our,
25?
well, currently we're lower because I think it started, our contract was like 15 and it bumped its way up closer to 20, but now we're budgeting more closer to 30.
And then the way the contract is written is that there's a price for the standard city audit, but if there's any other kind of special audits that need to be done, there's another fee. So the special audits are like when we got the COVID money from the federal government and how that money is spent, then there's a separate audit that has to be done for that. So there can be separate audits done for grants, really tied to grants that government grants that we are given.
Correct.
And that's something that is written in the grant, saying you
Required.
You will audit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Couple typos. 1, 2, 3, fourth bullet point on page 6. With any changes in reporting requirements remain, I guess, to remain in conformity. So we're missing 2. On page 11, on appendix 1. Just the formatting's kind of wacky in there in terms of the coverage amounts. It's in several lines.
Sure. Yep. I think that was, we took that from the contract.
Yeah.
The agreement.
On page 10, item number 10, these are the proposal requirements. Just a simple addition, I would suggest that it read that they'll be required to execute an agreement with the city in substantially the form set forth in Appendix 2. So if there are any further changes or negotiations, that's a possibility.
So required to execute an agreement, you said in substantial.
In substantially the form set forth.
Okay.
We have not yet talked about the contract, but I do want to note that the contract makes a reference to a project schedule, which is part of the RFP. And the RFP does not have a project schedule that I see.
Okay.
It has some discussion about the proposal process, but not the actual work progress.
We had a little bit defined with the dates of the drafts, but not a,
So that might help address some of the concerns that you had before.
so maybe build in like a progress meetings into
Yeah.
the schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what portion of the work needs to be completed along the way.
Okay.
It's going to start at certain time. I don't know. I don't know what the technical part is, but work papers get gathered and produced and things start happening. So maybe the finance person can help put something like that
Yeah.
together. Is there any further discussion about the RFP itself? Okay, what about,
Oh.
go ahead.
So I just wanted to go over, one of the responsibilities of the audit selection committee is defining the evaluation criteria, because you guys will actually be reviewing the proposals and then ranking the firms. So if we go to page, the overview of the scoring is on page 4 of 14. And we have 4 categories. We have qualifications, experience, expertise for a maximum possible points of 45. We got audit, approach, ability to furnish for 30. References 15, and then cost proposals 10. And if you go down to page, starting on page 8 of 14, it says response elements, and it talks about putting together the proposal. And when you get to number 4, that's where it lists out bullet points and descriptions of what the what we're looking for as far as scoring. And then I also provided a sheet that's been used in the past to kind of ask questions and brings up points when doing the scoring. Talks about you know, different things with the approach, you know, the cost proposal. It talks about why the pricing might be different. Just items to consider when ranking. So I just wanted to give you that. And if there's anything else you think that we should be listing in these evaluation criteria that we want them to include our information in their proposal that we'll be looking for.
Does the RFP specifically state without any ambiguity what needs to be met and how it needs to be handled? Or is there some leverage or latitude for doing things in different ways?
The approach, there's latitude, and it's changed over the years with Salt Marsh. The original woman who used to come in, she used to spend all her time here for weeks, you know, physically going through things. And now it's turned into remote, where we're pulling files and submitting records.
So we're just sending it electronically to them to peruse?
Yes.
Do they do a physical audit at all? Do they actually come and,
Not in the past 2 years.
It's more and more difficult.
that's interesting. So
So it's
you could
just
be
an
feeding,
opinion anyway, isn't it?
you could be feeding documents that aren't
Isn't that at
accurate
the end
or
of the day,
correct,
the
or aren't the
auditor's
actual ones
states
that are
this
in.
is an opinion based on what was provided to us?
Well, if that's what Heather did.
Yeah, that's how they word it.
Yeah.
And then they say we're not responsible.
Right, exactly, so it's a way out,
Yeah.
anyway, regardless of what they do. It's still on us to provide them with accurate information to the best of our ability.
Right.
But if we're not doing something right, I want the auditor to tell us. You know, then not just blow by it. I mean, that's the whole purpose of it, to ensure that we are representing the best interests of the citizens.
Yes.
That's a great point. I mean, I'm almost thinking like, you know, like when you had your company, I mean,
Yeah,
audit manager normally sits with the owner and the CFO
absolutely.
and has, you know, what if they need to hold a meeting with the mayor and the manager
You know, we had.
before it goes to city council. Just kind of when they do their management review letter. I don't know if that's a standard practice or not.
They did reach out via email and then called me and asked me about any concerns, and did the same for Heather, and they did their, I don't know what the
If
official.
I do a conflict check
Where
with
they-
each
yeah,
of the
where
city
you have
council
to-
members, yeah.
And you have to also say, you know, if you have any interest, you know, you gotta check the boxes. They did that for all the employees that deal with the budget and expenditures.
I think it's important to agree that we need to audit the audit. So as the auditing committee, I think that it's truly upon us to say, to audit the audit. But to what extent?
Yes.
So it's a fine line. You want to be able to trust what they deliver to you to be representative of what you gave them. But there's not a chance in the world that we're going to be able to spot every single thing. I mean, I think we did an amazing job at finding what we all found last year that we brought back to them, that either we had given them something incorrectly or they had interpreted it incorrectly. But at the end of the day, it's still the city's responsibility to make sure that what was given was reported on accurately and fairly. Because as you said, there's a disclosure on the bottom of it that this is an opinion based on what was furnished to us.
Mm-hmm. And this year, Heather sent them all the QuickBook, pretty much the whole file, all the files, so
Yeah.
they could open it up and go through
And that's good.
and find the documents
Yeah.
and whatever they could just send to them.
And but they're responsible for tying back every single entry to every single cost in every single category.
Mm-hmm.
And they should be able to do that without hesitation. So, I guess that goes with standard GAAP practices. So do we need, I guess the question was, do we need to put anything in the RFP that speaks to that? I don't know. I don't think so. Or anything additional.
Well, that's a great thought, but I think they state that they're presenting it according to GAAP and government accepted accounting principles.
And on what you gave them.
Yeah, no, they are
And-
doing
and
the
what you
disclaimer.
So I don't know if there's anything higher or greater. I've never had experience in dealing with anything other than meeting those standards.
Well, I guess the next step is when we get the GOFA accounting certification, because they kind of take a deeper dive and ask for, make amendments
Yeah.
based on the recommendations.
And we've always gotten good remarks, or
Yeah.
good reports
Yes.
there.
And we've taken those recommendations and corrected them in the time.
Right.
And that's part of the reason we built that draft in early in February, because we're trying to meet their deadline.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because last year,
Last year we were way later.
way late.
Yeah. And they'll give you extensions, but they want specific reasons, and they don't like the same reason over and over again.
Right.
And they're getting stricter is what Heather's done.
So when they say, well, the IRS extended due to hurricanes, don't we get an extension due to hurricanes? Yeah.
So that works 1 year.
I can just tell you with the companies I work with, getting output from the CPA firms is horrendous right now. Horrendous. Not the quality, the timing.
Well, I think we're all struggling from lack of resources.
Yeah. So this is what once the RFPs come back, then we'll be given the grade sheets. We'll grade
Yeah.
according to this.
And you guys satisfied with the dates? I got it going out this Friday, once we make some changes, and then the deadline to come in is May 31st.
How many recipients are on the list?
I'm gonna put it on Demand Star, and then submit it. If they're not, or it should be listed, but I'll double check everyone that Heather knows in the area, make sure
So it'll
that
be
they're
a
on
good
there.
number of people will receive it.
I hope so, yeah. I can give you a number once I put it in of what that group entails, because, depending on what you're posting on Demand Star, it sends it to specific people who are registered. So,
I have one question about the evaluation process, and just posing to the group, does that feel right? Does that feel good to you that references are a maximum of 15 points and cost is the lowest factor?
Well, do you want quality or do you want price consideration? I think that's the question, but you marry all of those things together. And
Sure.
when we decide, we've taken all those things into consideration. But
References I tend to discount a little bit, and not because I don't want them. It's just that no one's going to send you a bad reference. Anybody can find somebody that'll say, yeah, I like this person, they do good work. But
That's why
to
I
me,
have
cost-
Mark as a neighbor.
But you're right, but I think it behooves us to make sure that we go out to the people in charge at the other cities that we're given as references to sort of dig into it. If we ask the right questions, you usually can tell if you're getting an honest evaluation or if they're, yeah, they were good.
So it's important. Salt Marsh is probably the go-to municipal firm in the state of Florida.
Wow.
So I think part of the problem is that they're that big now and they know that. And so from there, they may just want to do the cities of Tampa, Largo, and Clearwater because they don't have the bandwidth for $25,000 a year for us.
Right.
They'd rather charge $250 to $500 to one of these bigger cities. So I think Heather's got a great insight, and I think we'll make sure we get in front of the right firms that have the right expertise. And it was interesting to hear, the low price firm for Reddington was a local Pinellas firm, if I remember right what she said. So, I think to your point, we get what we pay for.
Yeah, but you never know either who's got the bandwidth and who doesn't have the bandwidth.
But it will be
any given
important
year.
to see the list of cities and municipal customers that they represent. Because we really could care less if they do a Fortune 500.
And how
Right.
long they've had them,
Yeah.
which is usually, sometimes it's not furnished. These are the people we audit.
I don't have a problem with the total possible points for the proposed fee. I think it's clear that the sentence, the cost should be evaluated in conjunction with the other categories, but only after, which is underlined, the other points are awarded. I don't know who came up with the scale or the total number of points, and I'm not trying to discount the importance of factoring the fee, but I don't have a problem with the fact that it says that when you do after all other categories have been evaluated
Yeah,
and scored.
because to your point,
Yeah.
you don't want to give it to the company that doesn't do very well in the other categories, but they're the lowball.
Well, that too, and you could manipulate the numbers in the other three categories to whatever you want it to be for a maximum, but you're still gonna have that ratio, if you will, when you get down to the proposed fee. So the key is, I said, you take that into consideration when you're doing the other three evaluations, but ultimately your final decision about proposed fee
75,
is
85.
after the first three have been.
So it's out of 100. So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
and,
So you're comparing like how much the value you get in
Yeah,
free
it
price.
seems reasonable that
Yeah.
the proposed fee is something that's always negotiable anyway.
Yeah.
So you should meet 90% of your criteria and then go after negotiating the fee.
Right.
That way you're getting a quality product, not just the lowest cost product.
That sounds good. Do you have anything more to add to your discussion before we look at the contract?
No, we covered it. Yeah, just wanted the insight on the evaluation, talk about the dates, make sure our timetable's correct.
So you mentioned the return on the 31st. then when do you want to get them to us? And then how long for us? Have you scheduled that out? How long we get to evaluate it?
That's left up in the air. I figured once I send you everything, a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's sort of an unknown as how many responses we're gonna get.
Yeah. And it does say if we don't get 3, then we just rank what we got. Because we have to rank at least the top 3.
That's the state statute? Or is that-
Yes, that was in the statute.
When do you have to take it to the council and say, here's the recommendation?
Before the end of the fiscal year, so that we have the approval.
So there's,
It's September 1st at the
Contract.
latest?
there's a lot of time,
Yeah.
June
Yeah.
to September.
So August probably would be a good one. That way it's not right on the last minute, but worst case September. And we're gonna be working with budget at the same time.
Right, and we get
From
some.
we might be tag teaming some meetings together for budget and RFP response.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we get some numbers late, right before, after the
To
first.
do the first draft and then.
Yeah, and then we just plug them in. So we'd be fine with that.
So what additional comments might anyone have regarding the contract itself? I have a few comments. Page 2, at the top on item B is where it references the project schedule in the RFP. Just aware of that, and we're going to come up with one,
And then
right?
we're going to elaborate.
And a question for you is this generally a fixed fee? Or is it hourly? How is it generally priced?
So it's an annual fee is what it's historically been, and it's a multi-year contract, and then there's a cost of living adjustment for like 3 years, I think is what the current contract is. It was a 3-year contract with an escalator for each
Okay.
year.
On page 3, item 4B, it says that invoices will be submitted in sufficient detail. I assume that those will be just quarterly payments or installment, whatever is agreed upon. And specify the services performed and the time spent on such work. How do you feel about adding in increments of 1/10 of an hour so that you actually know how much time? Because I've seen bills where they just have some ungodly
They
amount of
looked at
time.
it,
And
and
yeah,
they billed an hour.
yeah, they've got ungodly amount of time and they,
Would that change anything? I mean,
But-
if we,
We're,
we're gonna pay them a flat fee,
because
essentially.
we're set at an annual fee. Yeah.
all right,
But I agree, Kim,
Percent
if we were
completion.
being billed by the hour,
yeah.
but
And we could ask them, we don't know at this point, for something extra, something special, something to do that's not covered in the standard audit. And they could say, yeah, well, our hourly rate is this, and we're estimating it to be 20 hours or whatever.
and there's a good chance that whatever firm we pick is gonna try and negotiate that, so we'll all get a chance to see it again.
That's right.
Exactly.
On page 4, item 12, on dispute resolution, I think the capitalized terms are reversed. So all claims arising out of this capital agreement or its agreement, which would be lowercase. If you see it that way.
I'll leave that to the attorneys.
Yeah. I'll bring it up to Rob.
Yeah. Because if you go to page 1, this agreement is capitalized. So we have this one.
Rents have been, what would they mean? We don't know. You wouldn't say agreement twice without specifying.
This agreement or its agreement or its breach. It's,
I'll just ask him to check it.
I thought I read that earlier and it made sense. Now I question it. Okay. Yeah, so let's just bring that up to them.
Yeah.
Okay, on the bottom of that page, on bottom of page 4, records retention. 3 years seems kind of short. I mean, generally, for even tax purposes, you keep records for at least 6 years. So I would put that to maybe a question, is 3 years sufficient?
I'm sorry, I don't see the bottom of page 4. What section are you in?
Bottom of page 4.
The agreement,
Yeah, the last line.
not the RFP, but the agreement.
What are they referring to? Which data?
It's that they'll maintain records to justify all payments made by the city for at least 3 years after completion.
The statute of limitations for contract 7, 5.
Oh, okay.
But
It
is that,
varies by state.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
In most states, it's 10. I
but is
remember
that
Florida.
our responsibility?
Of theirs.
It's
Their responsibility to keep what we give them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
they,
put them in a box and.
Well, there's not-
to justify their,
Or cloud or whatever, but,
yeah.
so they're gonna want to charge for that.
Well, it says about if longer if it's required by applicable federal state law. Consultant has to maintain the record, so.
So it's got that clause,
If required by applicable federal,
and
or
longer.
longer if required, it's at the
Okay.
top of page 5. So that,
Yeah, but the problem with them would be on us, the burden would be on us to
Right.
say that it should be longer
Right.
if they don't keep them. So,
I agree, Kevin, it ought to be a specified time, more than 3 years. 3 years is pretty short.
yeah,
Do we know what the federal or state law is?
it depends on for what purpose.
Yeah.
If it's for personnel
What do
purposes,
we
it's one
keep
thing.
here?
If it's
See,
tax purposes,
the
another.
clerk's got a-
It's- yeah.
Whole description. of
Environmental
what-
violations
what-
might be
what
something
record
else.
is, and it tells you the retained period.
Yeah.
So I could have her look and see if it matches up.
And the last comment I had is on liquidated damages, which is section 35, the last section. Liquidated damages run at a penalty of $100 a day. That's low.
I added that because we had nothing from previously, and from what Attorney Eschenfelder was telling me, it's a tough thing to argue, to make them responsible for it, but he felt it didn't hurt to have something in there.
well, like it
Because-
said, it holds their commitment to
To try
February
to,
15th.
yeah, try to hold them to something, even though the burden of proof is on us to prove the actual amount of damage. And he was showing me a bunch of cases and saying, in most cases, it won't even be worth going after.
Yeah.
But I was like, so maybe we just shouldn't have, and he's like, it won't hurt to have it in there, so that was the final recommendation.
No, I think it's a great thing to have. I was just wondering if it was low, $100 a day.
do we know if any other cities have this section 35 liquidated damages in their contracts?
Well, the sample contract didn't have it, and I asked for something.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
how we discussed it, and I just put 100 because I didn't want, Heather was concerned that putting too high might alarm the firm, and
Yeah.
they may not like that. I just wanted to have something that
They-
was reasonable.
Not bid.
I'm thinking the same
Seems
thing,
a
you know,
little-
you get too exorbitant, and they're gonna say,
You know what,
Yeah.
worst case, they're gonna ask you to throw it out. But
Yeah,
I think it's in there for a first pass.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see what
think-
it takes, yeah.
and just like you said, you probably spend more money trying to collect it than what
Right.
they would owe you.
And then again, give me an example of what that would be.
Yeah.
It would have to be something that we furnished them correctly, they interpreted it incorrectly, that caused us harm, monetary harm.
Yeah.
So, like if we were
Well,
fined or something.
Yeah, maybe we don't get our GAF bill because they didn't turn it around quick enough.
Well, that could be, yeah, same
Yeah.
for performance. Yeah.
But again, we'd have to prove the actual cost, the amount.
Mhm.
Yeah, and show that it.
Yeah, so it's I mean, you gotta enter into the contract with some level of comfort that you're working together as partners.
I think in one scenario we discussed would be like if they just fell through and we felt it was pertinent that we hired another firm to get it all done, and
Well,
then we took that
and
cost.
that's a very valid thought, because if they throw up their hands and say, we can't, we lost all of our help, we can't do this. And now another firm we have to hire is gonna charge us twice as much,
Mhm.
because they've only got a shrunken period in which to produce it. Okay, how does that get handled, is the question. And $100 a day isn't even gonna come close to the charges that we're gonna be paying by somebody to expedite the audit.
Yeah, it's not even a fifth of an hourly bill for most of them, so.
So Mark, pardon me,
Yeah, go ahead.
are you reading this as a preclusion to other damages? When you say liquidated, that's it?
Well, I was saying what
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
would be liquidated as to non-performance. So does it speak to anything about non-performance?
It says if they fail to deliver any final draft, interim report, audit, or other deliverable required by this agreement. I don't know, I think I might take that back to the attorney. We certainly don't want it to be the measure of all damages.
No. That's
No,
my
but that was
question.
the biggest
Yeah.
one that I would be concerned with is
Right.
non-performance.
Rehire, yeah, have them rehire someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
If they just decided to quit and walk away from it, and it's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
so it's, so it's $700, so what?
Yeah.
We had to put a force majeure, all of our employees out
Okay,
I
I
mean,
will ask.
I would hope they
Yeah.
have insurance for these kinds of things.
We have a requirement for, well, it's more liability if they do the wrong,
there.
yeah, but it's more, and.
What's there?
That was another thing, that the limit is $1 million. Is that low?
Standard in
Is that-
Florida for any kind of professional service,
Is
even
that-
engineering firms, that's all we have.
Yeah, that's
Except
low.
for technology companies,
Okay.
Oh,
5
no, really? Wow,
or more. They try to get 10.
wow.
And
It's 'cause
that's
it's cybersecurity risk.
Because it's 5.
Yeah.
It's financial.
Those are all the comments I had. Anybody else have any further comment? Kyle, do you have something?
Now I'm gonna take all of your comments and try to get this turned around. Hopefully, if I can't get an answer back from Attorney Eschenfelder in time, I may have to just push to like Monday or something, but that would be a big change on the issue date.
I think May 31st would still be fine, even if you were a week out.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's it.
So with the changes we talked about and discussed, I'll motion approval of the RFP.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Very well. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Final agenda item, do we have any new or general business?
I don't.
There being none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Very good. We have a motion. Is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It being 6:03, a very nice 1 hour.